How did the Arabs get so rich? It's a question people ask all the time when they see the towering skyscrapers of Dubai, the luxury cars in Riyadh, or the futuristic cities rising in the middle of the desert. But to understand the wealth of the Arab world, especially in the Gulf region, you have to look back in time, not just decades, but centuries. For most of history, the Arabian Peninsula was made up of small tribal communities. Life was harsh. People lived in desert environments, surviving through trade, animal herding, fishing, and in coastal areas, pearl diving. Wealth was extremely limited. There were no major natural resources, no fertile rivers like in Egypt or Iraq. The region was strategically located between Europe, Asia, and Africa, but economically it was far from powerful. Everything changed in the 20th century. In 1938, oil was discovered in Dammam, Saudi Arabia. This marked the beginning of a transformation no one could have imagined. In the following decades, more oil was found in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman. These weren't just small reserves, they were some of the largest on Earth. The timing couldn't have been better. World War II created massive demand for oil, and as the global economy expanded in the post-war period, so did the need for energy. The Gulf states, with their low production costs and vast reserves, became critical suppliers. By the 1970s, things really took off. The oil crisis in 1973, when Arab nations cut oil exports to the West in response to political tensions, caused oil prices to skyrocket. Suddenly, countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait were earning billions of dollars a year. Their populations were still relatively small, but their revenues were massive. That's when the real transformation began. With all this oil wealth, these countries started investing heavily in infrastructure. They built roads, hospitals, schools, airports, and entire cities. In the UAE, cities like Dubai and Abu Dhabi turned from small towns into global business hubs in just a few decades. In Qatar, the government used oil and gas revenue to fund education, healthcare, and international media, even launching Al Jazeera to project soft power around the world. But oil alone doesn't explain it. Many countries have oil, not all of them are rich. What made the Gulf states different was how they used their wealth. They didn't just spend it, they invested it. They created massive sovereign wealth funds to manage and grow their money globally. Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, the UAE's Mubadala, and Qatar's Investment Authority began investing in everything from American tech companies to European real estate to global sports. Qatar bought the Paris Saint-Germain football club. The UAE invested in ports and airlines. Saudi Arabia poured billions into companies like Uber and Lucid Motors. These weren't just financial moves, they were part of a strategy to stay rich long after the oil runs out. And that's an important point. These countries know oil won't last forever. That's why they've started diversifying their economies. Saudi Arabia launched Vision 2030, a plan to reduce dependence on oil by developing sectors like tourism, entertainment, technology, and finance. The UAE turned Dubai into a global tourism and business hub, attracting millions of visitors a year. Qatar hosted the 2022 FIFA World Cup, the first ever held in the Arab world, spending over $200 billion to make it happen. These moves are about more than money, they're about global influence. Arab wealth today is tied not just to oil but to media, real estate, sports, art, and politics. But there's also a debate. Some argue that much of this wealth is concentrated at the top. Others question the long-term sustainability of economies still heavily reliant on fossil fuels in a world moving toward renewable energy. And while countries like the UAE and Qatar are pushing innovation, others are still grappling with political and economic challenges. Still, the transformation is undeniable. In less than a century, the Gulf went from nomadic tribes in the desert to some of the richest nations on earth. It was oil that triggered the rise, but it's vision, investment, and strategic planning that's keeping it going. That's how the Arabs got so rich, and why their influence on the global stage is only growing.